The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort, Guam.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about you. What school did you go to when you were here on Guam, and then up to your journey now?
Sure. So thanks for having me. I am a proud graduate of Santa Barbara Catholic School, home of the Spartans. And then afterwards, I decided, or my parents decided, that maybe you should just keep going. And so they sent me to Father Duenas Memorial School.
Yeah. How did you get into the political scene?
So that's a really good question. Growing up, our family wasn't very political here. My grandfather was one of the first people recruited from the Philippines after World War II in the late 1940s as part of Camp Rojas. Mm-hmm. And so our family story on Guam has always been linked to being part of the Filipino community down south in Agate. So he, built his life here, did community building and RR Cruz, was more involved in the church actually, at Mont Carmel down there. And my grandmother, my Lola, was very involved with Legion of Mary, which is not as militant as it sounds. It was more a group that really did a devotional to Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. So I was never really involved in politics here on Guam. I think it was until college that I took my first political science class that I said, maybe being class president and student council president was leading me up to getting more involved. So I've been more involved in Seattle, Washington, D.C., Washington State. And so that's how I ended up being more involved in politics.
It's been quite the journey. And how would you say that relates to the local politics that you see here?
Sure. So my background has really always been in kind of stateside politics, but I've never really stopped looking back to Guam. For a little while, I actually worked for Congresswoman Madeline Z. Bordallo, doing her health policy work and her natural resources committee work. I was part of her team that actually got the war claims bill passed.
Wow.
And so being able to really look at how we can use national tools to really elevate and make Guam life better for everyone was something that I was able to take from the Congresswoman's work. In terms of local politics, I know that we recently had an election here.
Yeah.
I think that we were talking early on that there is something very different about Guam politics that is both very charming, very nice, it's very grassroots and local, but it's also not very connected to larger national politics, which has one of the things that I've been following for pretty much my whole career. So I'm trying to see if there's something that I can do to continuously fight for Guam in all the roles that I've been privileged to serve in.
And among those roles, Apex, that's something that you've been involved with. You were a fellow, right?
Yes, and actually an intern.
There you go.
So I was the first fellow who had Guam roots. And the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies, which was partly founded by our former delegate, Congressman Underwood, is truly life-changing. It changed the trajectory of my life. After college, I knew I wanted to be in Washington, D.C., but for us people from Guam, it's always like we tend to wonder, like, is there even a role for us in Washington, D.C.? We're so far away. Thousands of miles separate us from both the continental U.S. and then an additional thousands of miles separate us from our nation's capital. And so I was able to find this program through one of the announcements at my school at the University of Washington in Seattle. And I just turned in my application, and next thing you know, I was a congressional intern.
Wow.
And then I guess I was a true believer, and I was a congressional fellowship awardee, and I was placed in one of the members of Congress in Los Angeles, former Congressman Javier Becerra, now our U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services. So it was very eye-opening, life-changing, and I encourage all students from Guam to do it because we can actually compete nationally. I think we have something here on island where we kind of sell ourselves short, but I truly believe Guam students are world-class and can actually do it. So,
talk a little bit about how you benefited from this program. Well, what is a takeaway?
So I'm naturally an introvert, and so it's very hard for me to really, network and do a lot of the things that Washington, D.C. is known for. But the professional training and the networks that Apex was able to provide for me allowed me to, build my confidence. I think, shy island boy trying to make it in Washington, D.C., having this network, knowing that there is a family behind you, cheering you on every part of the way of your Washington, D.C. journey, is good. I think it also helps shrink the city. I think we do our best as Apex. I'm actually an alumni board member of the organization to try to get this family feeling in policy and politics in our nation's capital. Recently, we actually had 2 students from Guam complete the congressional internship, and Christian Gals Ramos is someone who I would like to just point out is a success story. He did both the summer internship and the fall internship, and now has landed a permanent job in Washington, D.C. So it really is one of those places where we do need that extra help. And Apex, I think, provides it through all their programs. They have programs for high schoolers, people in college, people who've graduated college, and people who are maybe thinking about elected office.
Nice. Do they cater to a specific group, or do they target a certain group?
So I think traditionally they've always worked with Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. They're one of the 3 large organizations in our nation's capital that really cater to minority communities. So they work very closely not only within kind of the larger Asian Pacific Islander community, which we all know is 56 plus groups, with very different backgrounds, languages, and histories, but they also work closely with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute and the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, which are similar sister organizations that help place students who are typically from backgrounds that don't have access to politics or policy in our nation's capital. And I think that they work closely together, and I would say some of my best friends I've met through those other programs.
Nice. So if anyone was interested in applying and becoming a part of it, where do they need to go? Is it as simple as just going online?
Yes. Yeah. So as simple as going online, apex.org, apaics.org. The fellowship application is actually January 30th, 2025. And they're going to make an announcement for the congressional internship, which is either the summer or the fall. And again, it is a full stipend paid for. Depending on the program, they also provide housing. And I believe in some cases also airfare, because I know that is also such a huge factor for people coming from Guam. I mean, I think when I have to explain to people how long it takes to come back home, and everyone thinks like, oh, I'll just go home for the weekend. I think people from Guam, you actually need to try to pack for 2 weeks, because it is a journey. I mean, unless they start, inventing teleportation, I think that airfare is always going to be a problem.
It takes the whole weekend just to get here and back. So
and the jet lag.
There you go.
The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam. The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam.
But what brought you back here was another program with Filpro in the Philippines.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
So Filpro is the Filipino Young Leaders Program. I think that I may be scratching the edge of what young is. So I think young in quotation marks in my case. It is a program that is sponsored by the Ayala Foundation in the Philippines, along with the Department of Foreign Affairs in the Philippines, the U.S. Embassy in Manila, and also this national not-for-profit organization called the Filipino Young Leaders Program. So it is in its, I believe it started in 2011, so I was part of the 11th class, what we like to call the batch. And it takes Filipino Americans from all over the country. I think here in Guam, we have had the privilege of having several people complete the program. Former Senator Dennis Rodriguez is also an alumni of the program. And it, I would say, is also very life-changing. I enjoyed my time. We started off in Iloilo, which is the ancestral home of the Pontemayor family.
There you go.
And so being able to visit for the first time and see the places that my grandfather, may have seen before he hopped on the ship to come to Guam is really, I can't describe it. And then we ended up in Manila having high-level meetings with the Chamber of Commerce there, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Department of State. We actually met a Philippine Supreme Court justice. So it really is a place that allows us to really see what modern life in the Philippines is, and how Filipino Americans can continue to look at the Philippines as a place that we can continue to build kind of our identities, and how we can have that mutual exchange.
I know you currently live in the East Coast, but how does it feel to be a Guam boy selected for this?
Well, everything I do, I try to always elevate Guam. Guam has been so good to me and my family. The whole idea that this island can present opportunities, and the product of an immigrant grandfather, and my parents continuously worked here in the private sector, showed that it truly is a place that Guam dreams can come true. Our American dream started in Guam, and I think for myself, being able to take a lot of what the community here has lifted me up and built me into, and take kind of their hopes, dreams, and aspirations to the East Coast, has also been really just, I would say, it gives me food for the journey. I mean, they're always feeding you in Guam, might as well give you food for the journey too, spiritually and emotionally.
What would you say to encourage others, especially since we have such a large Filipino population and Filipino American community here in the islands, to get them to also check out Filpro?
Sure. So the program application, I believe, opens next year. I don't know when. I think it was April of this year that I had the application process. I also encourage, again, we need Guam Filipinos to make it, into this program, because when we think of Filipino Americans, we often exclude Filipinos from Guam and Hawaii and, the islands, who, again, have been such a big part of the fabric of the island. Filipino Guamanians have been here since our days as being a shared Spanish colony. And Filipino Guamanians continue to really lead in kind of both the civic, business, and even church spaces on island. I think Filipino Guamanians are truly one of those places, or one of those communities on island that is probably not heard of as much, but seen. All you have to do is go and check out at any store here. The clerk is probably Filipino Guamanian, all the way up to maybe seeing your doctor or nurse who, really hold up kind of the healthcare infrastructure here on island. And Filipino Guamanians like myself, who never really understood our history and where we came from, really stand to benefit from this program. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this program was my family and my grandfather and my parents continuously pushed me to look for opportunity. And I always thought of it as looking for opportunity moving forward. Opportunity existed stateside on the mainland. That's something that we have been taught. I think this program, as a Filipino Guamanian, showed me that you can look at opportunity looking backwards, like looking back to the country that our parents and grandparents left. That there are really people in that country moving it forward, day in and day out, doing their best to try to take advantage of whatever structures politically that they have, whatever challenges they have. They go through multiple typhoons. When I was there, I think there was 3 typhoons.
Yeah, we sent it your way.
And it was just Filipinos continuously are resilient. They're smiling, they're going through those challenges, and they do it with such grace. And I don't know if I could actually do it, but I learned a lot, and truly life-changing. I don't think I'm ever going to be the same going back to the mainland after this.
Certainly something to be proud of, and Guam is proud that you were able to represent us and your culture through this experience. So thank you for that. I want to wrap up now the interview with a question I started off our discussion with. Any political aspirations for yourself?
I will say you can never close the door on that.
There you go.
I think that, I don't know what the future holds. I think that, as if anything I've learned from my Lolo, it's embrace opportunity in whatever form it takes. If political office is one of those, I will see what happens. I am always proud to see what this island can offer and how I can help. And I'll be happy to see if my story continues coming back here.
All right, Paulo, we'll continue to watch. Thank you so much. It's great to meet you, and good luck on your trip and safe travels back to DC.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam. The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam.
Good morning, Speaker.
Good morning.
Now with the Republicans taking the majority in the legislature, what are some of the changes that we can expect to see?
Well, first, if I could just say, I'd like to say thank you to the voters. I think they have been the ones to really make the changes, and I want to thank them for their votes, and I want to thank them especially for their vote of confidence in me and my leadership and the hard work that I've done and in my integrity and I was really humbled to be, placed even higher than the next Democrat vote getter and 3,000 votes higher than the top Republican vote getter. That's really humbling. But I'm excited and looking forward to working together with the newly elected and the re-elected senators in making sure that we are going to have a legislature that acts as an independent branch, that is fair to all the people of Guam, that is able to listen and prioritize what is going to bring them benefit and a better quality of life. I think that's a common goal that we all have, and I'm looking forward to working together to achieve that. I am, again, very humbled that we've been able to do the work that we've done to work together in order to achieve that. I think there's some remarkable accomplishments so far, and there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. So with some of the incumbents, we know that what their priorities are, and I think we all share very similar what we want for the people of Guam. We want a better quality of life, and we're going to work very hard to do that.
Right, and with this majority now, we have 4 newcomers and 1 former senator, all Republican. Do you have any, concerns you have? You mentioned that you know what the priorities are for the incumbents, but now that we have new faces, are you concerned about it at all, or not at all?
Not concerned, no. Actually, I'm looking forward to it. I think they're beginning with clean slates, so we have a great chance to work together. And I think if they're true to their promises to the people, it's really the people who we all answer to. So they have to answer to the people for the promises they've made to them. And I think that our goal is just to do that in an independent and fair way to everyone. And so the promises that I've heard are great. So I just say, let's continue that work. A lot of that we've made, and previous legislatures have made some progress, but of course, Guam has faced so many different things over the past few years. Things change so fast, so we really need to be able to hustle just as well to reprioritize and address those, some long-standing and some brand new issues that pop up.
Right, and come January, once those new senators get sworn in, that means you also will no longer be the speaker. What are your feelings on that, as you've been serving this community for how long were you speaker for?
I've been speaker for 2 terms, so that's 4 years, and this is my 4th term as a senator, so that's 8 years, and I will be serving my 5th term thanks to the voters. And I am just so excited and very humbled and thankful. I can't tell you how grateful I am for their votes in this election to really, I think, give me a vote of confidence in my leadership, and to remind us that that's what we should aim for. We should aim for hard work. We should aim for fairness. We should aim for reprioritizing as we need to in order to really truly address the people of Guam's needs. And so I'm very grateful that they were able to share that vote of confidence with me. So I'm happy, and I feel like we've been able to work across the aisle. We've been able to work just issue-based, and I think that's how we should work. The work of the legislature should be done based on the merits of the issues, and really just that, and facts, truth, and we should aim for justice, of course. So that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Right, and as you mentioned, you're going to continue the good work that you have been doing here at the legislature, but I'm also hearing that there's some, word on the rumor mill that you may be planning on running for Adelup. Is that true at all, or what are your thoughts on this?
I was concentrating on my work here. I am concentrating on my work here. I still have a few months to finish this term up, and of course I just ran for office to be your senator in the 38th Guam legislature, and I intend to put my time and effort into that. As to any future plans, I will announce those if I make that decision, but otherwise I really do have a lot of work that I have to continue and finish.
Right, and another big change that we could see come January is that all of the current chairs of the committees will no longer be the chairs now with the way the rules are. Could you talk a bit about that? So as for yourself, since you are the committee for health, correct?
Yes, so I've been the chair of the Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture for the past term, and for the term before that as well. And these are huge committees, each one of them individually, but of course it's a lot of work to be the chairman of a committee. You take care of everybody else's bills. You hear them, you improve them if you can. In your committee, you get the facts on them. You make sure that they are ready to go before you put them on the floor. And you get public input first and foremost. So that's a lot of hard work, and I just wish the next committee chairs well in that regard. And I hope that I'm willing to help in any way that I can, these committee chairs or new leadership in the transition, and making sure that all I want to see is a fair and efficient legislature that's working for the people, because that's what the people deserve.
All right, and moving forward, you will continue to work hard. And I know that you mentioned off camera earlier that you're going to putting your focus into finishing up session.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're anticipating at least one more session before the end of the term, and we've still got some bills that I'm sure the senators and all the sponsors would like for those to get passed while we're in this last month or last 2 months of the term. And so the work hasn't even decreased at all. It's actually increased because, we've got to work on several things at the same time here at the end now. But still trying to get most of the bills out from the committee and to some of the pending bills, just make sure we finish whatever we can with those.
All right, thank you, Speaker.
Thank
and
you.
good luck to you in session and to you in the 38th.
Thanks so much, and thank you for your election coverage and for getting the vote out. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you.
The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam. The Hub is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Business and Leo Palace Resort Guam.
The day after the election, Deer Stag's owner Rick Muscat called his shoe factory in China to stockpile whatever they could send before Inauguration Day and before long-promised Trump tariffs kick in.
We would take everything they could get us to ship before Chinese New Year.
That move, maybe just in time, with President-elect Trump now announcing on his first day in office not just a 10% added tariff on China, but also 25% tariffs on anything imported from Mexico and Canada, America's two biggest trading partners. Online, Mr. Trump suggesting it's retaliation for the fentanyl entering the U.S., those countries deflecting blame, and the president-elect referencing migrants coming from Mexico and Canada.
I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together.
Mr. Trump's proposal could blow up the trade agreement he himself helped negotiate in his first term.
We got it done.
And could be challenged in court. Remember, tariffs are a tax on things other countries send here, and those other countries don't pay the tax directly. It gets passed down to companies instead, and often to you. The U.S. relies on both Canada and Mexico for cars and car parts, from Chevy pickups to Chrysler minivans. So the auto industry now bracing for a blow, including in states like Michigan, which Mr. Trump won. Mexico supplies more than half the fruits and veggies coming into the U.S., meaning your grocery bill could rise too. Already, economists predict inflation could tick up nearly 1% if these tariffs go into effect. And that's still an if, since Mr. Trump has used the threat of tariffs as a negotiating tactic before. But if he follows through?
We're a small business, and we can't afford to carry all those costs.
The owners of this Washington pet store worry about having to charge their customers more because the shop would pay more for imported harnesses and toys.
There's a point at which the consumer is going to say, this isn't in my family's budget. We can't do this.
Today, one Chinese official warns no one will win a trade war, and the Mexican president's previewing possible retaliatory tariffs if President-elect Trump does make good on his threat.
Russia is advancing at its fastest pace in 2 years, according to an assessment from the Institute for the Study of War. Moscow is firing swarms of drones daily, as well as artillery and missiles. But it was Russia's launch of a new kind of missile last week that got NATO's attention. Ukrainian intelligence clocked it flying 11 times the speed of sound. Russia has the momentum as the holiday season in Kyiv begins.
Oh my God! Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas.
This charity gives psychological support to children whose parents were killed in battle or had their homes destroyed by making cupcakes, writing letters to soldiers, and tying bracelets.
This is so nice.
And crafting ornaments in Ukraine's national colors.
I will put this on our tree at home.
Down to the American flag on the table, their message couldn't be clearer. Please don't abandon us.
How important for Ukraine is that American support?
We hope a lot for U.S. support to finally bring us victory, says Oksana Sliapova. Those fears that American support is dwindling, coming after President-elect Trump repeatedly criticized current aid levels. Kirillo's father is missing in action.
How much does your son understand about what happened to his father?
He knows that his dad has disappeared, but every night he hangs up the keys and hopes he'll come home, says Tetiana. She's lost her faith in the war. I think we're going to lose, she says, and we will be taken over by Russia. Ukrainians have held strong for more than 1,000 days, but with Russian advances and U.S. policy in transition, the stress is showing.